Nerdcube. Mr. Fickle.
Deep finesse. Ishtar-y. Firewall. Get ready for Terra Mystica's Tuesday League.
Hey, hello everyone. Okay, so how are you then?
I'm good. I'm ready to go now. Looking forward to this game, and I'm looking forward to getting a bit of a scouting report on all my opponents here. I haven't played all of them too much, so this is my chance to learn kind of, and also have some fun. And no, I'm happy to be here with you, Zoris.
So, I don't know if you had time to look at the track yet. What comes to mind? What comes to your mind when you look at what we have here?
Yeah, I've had a bit of time to look at it. The first thing you can't miss is the round 4 digs, which I'm sure everyone kind of who sees the look at the track, their eyes kind of get glued onto that round 4 dig round. That's always a really high scoring round in Terra Mystica. And you can see the auction's been ongoing for a bit, but you can see the faction selection, and both Darklings and Halflings were put in the game. And they can both kind of use that round 4 dig round really well and score a lot of points on it. So that's the first thing I noticed is the round 4 digs. Another thing is that it's a pretty high coin game. You see the round 2 cult reward with sending priests to the cult, each of them being worth 2 coins, and also the Earth cult coin rewards from the round 4 digs. So it's a pretty high economy game too, I think. So those are my first kind of insights, I guess, into this game. Have you had a chance to look at it all yet?
Yeah, I'm starting to get into it now. So yeah, I think the round 4 dig, as you say, is such a defining event. I think sometimes it can also be a trap, especially for a faction like Elflings. I often really like to know what's coming after. For example, if it's a dwelling round 5 for Elflings, it's usually not that good because you'll have all your dwelling out by the end of round 4. Here it's Sanctuary, so you can go for a water run on this round. Um, I'm sure there will be people cheering for the drillers because we have landscape on.
That would be amazing.
I will be surprised to see that. Otherwise, the round 6 dwelling, I mean, I'm not surprised to see Darklings being heavily bid on here because they are one faction that can exploit that, I think, much better than Halflings.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. It looks like quite a good track for Darklings all around. Even the bonuses, I mean, there's a priest bonus in as well. Not that it's that important for them, but there's also Tempship, which they could like in the game. There's the big building pass tile. It looks good for Darklings in general. And the cult coins, like a high coin game, is always nice for them as well. They can use the economy well.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And we have a kind of surprise pick. So maybe the most known color configuration is blue, yellow, black, and gray. And I would say next to that, one very close contender is the green, red, black, and brown factions, which we have here, but we have Orin instead of witches, which you expect usually. What are your thoughts on Orange here?
I think it's interesting. At first glance, I was kind of confused, I guess. But I think it could be fine here. They could use that round 1 airspeed, could be nice too, and the repeated fire cult rewards as well as the coin cult rewards, they'll be nice for a culty faction like Orin to use. And this game is also with landscapes on as well. For those of you that I guess you can't really tell at the start, but there are landscapes, and that makes a big difference for Orin. Their landscape is pretty good, giving them 4 victory points every time they win a cult or get to the top 10, the 10 spot in a cult. So I think they have some play here for sure.
So yeah, this landscape makes them kind of more similar to witches in a way, because witches has this inherent way to score 10 to 15 points in the game through their inherent faction ability, and Oren they can score maybe 8, 12 points. We've seen this 2 weekends ago for the international clash that Orange were able to score 12 points of their landscape. So it kind of make them a little more similar. And then the question is, which stronghold do you prefer? So Yeah, I suppose that with landscape there's more reasons to put Orans in, and we see that actually Orans are bidden before Chaos Magician here. What's your thought on Chaos Magician?
I was kind of surprised to see, first of all, to see Orin being bid down already. Lower than halflings. And yeah, lower than Chaos Magicians. I think it looks alright for Chaos Magicians. Well, I'm not so sure. I always find it hard to judge Chaos Magicians like in high level games. They're just like they can explode and do really well, or that you can get shut down pretty quickly. But they have no color neighbor here, which is always a bonus for them. And
Yeah.
there's some things that look good for them. Like they have, for example, round 3 dwellings. They like to expand in round 3. That's usually a good time for them to build a lot of dwellings on the board. Round 6 dwellings, they generally like high scoring tracks, and round 6 dwellings is a high scoring event, which they might be able to take advantage of as well. The only thing is, at least when I play Chaos Magicians, I like to score a lot with the ship pass tile if possible, and that's not in the game here. So that's kind of, I guess, a resource, or like a point resource they don't have access to in this game. But there are 3 other bonus tiles in that they can maybe take advantage of. So I always find it hard to assess Chaos Magicians, but I think they could be really good here if the game goes right for them.
Yeah, they are the definition of a glass cannon often. Probably the presence of Orin rather than witches is not such a good news for them, but at the same time you have halflings instead of cultists, so maybe that kind of balances out a little for them. Um, do you start
That's
to...
true. And
Oh yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
one other thought just came to my mind was that with Chaos Magicians, you're facing off against 2 digging factions here in Darklings and Halflings, and with a round 4 Spade round, they might have some extra digs to throw around. And if those factions dig away your red hexes, that would hurt Chaos Magicians a lot. So that makes it even, as you said, they're already like a very high res cow reward faction. I think they're even riskier here in this game.
There's a lot of way to shatter the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that often you have spare digs, as you said, in the round 4, right? And it's can be an easy target there. So, do you have a feel like it's always very hard, I find, to gauge Chaos Magician's value because of the high risk, high reward. But do you have an idea at what point you will start thinking of them here?
I think fairly soon. Yeah, I don't know exactly where I'd pick them, but I don't think there'd be too much. I don't think these other factions get bid down too much. Like I think Halflings maybe will get bid down a bit more. Um, I'll say with Halflings maybe at 20, Darklings at 13 or something like that, and Orin at 22. That's my guess. Maybe someone will take Chaos there. But I noticed that I think Nerdcube put Chaos Magicians in, so I'm wondering if he has a certain game plan with them, and see maybe he'll jump them a bit earlier than that. That's my guess at least, though. I'm not really sure. But do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right to point out who put which faction in. Mercury, I find, is a specialist of taking the 30 VP faction. And that's, I think, partly because he has a very wide range. He knows to play well a lot of factions. And if he put Chaos Magician in there, I think there is a reason, and I would not be surprised to see him pulling pull it out. So yeah, I'm looking forward for that. And as you said, probably halflings are still a little high. There's always a question of halflings. A lot will depends on where darklings start in this game. So and also if we look at Orin, I think that it can be like it can look well on first glance for Orins with no color neighbor. But on this matchup, sometimes things can close up very fast. For example, on the east, the G6 spots might easily be taken. Um, so sometimes with their spare digs, it's possible that you can be a target. So probably Chaos Magician is an easier target, but still Orin can be a target. And probably if Chaos start D4, your town in the center is not so easy. So I will be a little worried about him. I think.
That's a good point because I'm looking at kind of the pressure on different Orin hexes, but there's the gray hex in the middle of the map that both Orin and Chaos Magicians want. And there's, as you said, I guess G6. I don't have the indexes on right now, but the hex in the east that Darklings probably want and Orin definitely want. So there is a fair amount of pressure on Orin's hexes. They do have they'll probably get there's a good chance at least they'll get a Cult Spade in round 1. They definitely won't be on the Spade bonus though. Maybe they'll get Double Dig. I'm not totally sure. I'm not the greatest at predicting that. But I think Orin do want some early spades to claim territory, and if they don't get them, it could be a bit sketchy for them if they don't get that. So yeah, it's also kind of risky, I think, here to bid Orin heavily at least.
Yeah, the one thing I've learned to pay more and more attention on the bidding is the early game dynamic, how things are going to play out in the first round. And here it will be, I think, a very interesting. For example, if both factions start d4 f4 in the middle island for Chaos Magician and Orin, there will be a big fight for the e7 hex. But it's two factions who start with 7 power in Bolt 2, and there's only one bonus that gives power. So who's going to be able to take the single spade first to take e7? I think is going to be an interesting dynamic here. For example, does that mean that Chaos Magician go for the shipping bonus to make sure that Oren doesn't take it, it doesn't have the power for the spade? So I expect we'll have some interesting decision in the first, even before the first round.
Yeah, and there's some good bonuses in play too in general. Like halflings will get a spade, assuming they want it, which they probably should. And darklings will get either a priest or the stronghold pass tile, which are both very good bonuses for darklings. And so yeah, it'll be an interesting decision for chaos magicians, especially if the stronghold sanctuary pass tile is there, whether they should take that or should take temp ship to take it away from Orin. So that's the kind of thing that makes bidding on an auction tough, or bidding on a faction like Orin here tough, because it's hard to tell kind of how the pass tile is gonna trickle down to you. And it's another reason why I like halflings here. You're guaranteed with an opening with a spade to open, and you're also going to get a lot of leech most likely. That center brown hex on this map is really good for leech, and it's going to be likely completely surrounded. There's a good chance darklings will start in the center, Orin will start just below the hex, and chaos will start just above that hex. And if that's the case, then halflings will get a boatload of leech, which especially in a round 4 dig game, they can really take advantage of. So the more I look at this, the more I like halflings personally.
And with halfling, would you start on f5 or f7 in the Eastern Islands? So the furthest to the east hex, or the one around you, or the one that is just next to, well, the one that is labeled f5?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I'd probably start f5, I think, just because it gives you options to connect. I guess the tough thing is that darklings are placing their darklings are in 3rd seed and halflings are in 4th seed, so darklings are placing their last dwelling after the halflings place their 2 dwellings. So if darklings want, they can kind of block halflings in whichever place they place their dwelling. So that's, I guess, a little bit tough to deal with. But I think halflings can make it work really with either of those starting spots. But I'd probably be inclined to start on f5 personally. You also probably get better leech from Orin as well there.
So f5, yeah, you're probably having more of a leech party there. I suppose it depends a lot on what's your plan exactly. There's the question of who's going to get the double spade, which I find always interesting. And one thing interesting for halflings here is that they could take the spade bonus and the double spade and wait for round 2 for the tempo. So if they start f7, I think it's a lot less likely that darklings start e10, for example. And then if they start f5, I'm pretty sure darklings start g5 to block them. So I will be tempted to consider f7 and go for the double dig as soon as I can, with the idea of delaying the tempo, putting as much dwelling as I can, delaying the tempo for that. I think is an interesting idea. Hope we have our game here. So just a moment. Yep.
Yeah, we see Deep Finesse is the one to jump to Chaos Magicians. So I'm sure he has a pretty good plan. I played a doubles game with Deep Finesse recently, and I kind of saw I was talking with him on voice chat during the game, and I kind of got a first-hand look at his thought process, I guess. And one thing I saw with him is he's very he always has a plan, and he's really good at executing the plan and also seeing exactly what he needs for that plan. So I'm sure with taking Chaos Magicians here, he has some kind of plan or idea as to what he wants to do. So I'm intrigued to see how his game goes here.
Yeah, we've talked about how hard it is to dodge Chaos Magician value. Would you say you won the action there?
It's so hard to say. I Ask me again at the end of the game, and I'll have a better answer. No, if I were, I still kind of like halflings. I like Astari's position with halflings here personally. I think it's a pretty good setup for them. I think, especially with they should be able to get a lot of dwellings out early, use the round 4 spades well. If Darklings don't connect, they'll get network points through that. They can I don't know. I guess halflings are kind of the safe faction here. You know they'll score well with round 4 digs one way or another. Oh, and actually really interesting to point out is Nurkey put both his dwellings in the center there as Orin. So he definitely has a plan here too that he's going for.
I remember when you cast the game this weekend, you had flashback from the Fire QO finals, and I'm having flashback here from our game with Chaos Magician with Chaos Magician as Team Canada, where America was also the green faction. They started C3 and F4, so it seems like Rainier went with the same strategy.
Yeah, I'm guessing he must want temp ship. That must be the reason why he did that. And Deep Finish just takes temp ship from him. So
Yeah,
he
and
so he ends up with a priest, which is good too. But I'm really curious to see also if Deep Finesse takes a single spade first action just to cut through in the center gray hex there.
yeah, I think I will if I was him. I expect him to. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there it is. That makes sense. I mean, you need the space as Chaos Magician so badly. Like as nice as Earth One would be in this game, the space is more important. I think there's no question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what the digging pressure is. Alfling is kind of in the situation where they could get the double spade, but with Darklings being in this position, there's just no way they can use it if they get it unless they do.
I mean,
So
they could do what I think that was Team Asia did with Cultists in the most recent international class game and splice through kind of the gray in the east with a triple dig with their spade and a double dig. That might be I don't know if that'd be the greatest idea, but that'd open up a lot more hexes for them. And they could also really just they could still use a double dig and then use a single dig to dig that red hex in the south for later. So they still I think it's still useful for them to take. But I guess if they do take double dig here, they're maybe sacrificing Earth One. So
yeah,
it's an interesting trade off, and he's taking some time to think about it here. So we'll see kind of what Istari comes up with.
yeah, I'm very curious to see what his choice is. Probably, so he could use a single spade, say on f3, and probably no one. So it's Nerd Cube with next move will be one power short of the double spade, so he can delay it. So I suppose that can be a good strategy. Maybe take g2 as soon as he can, and he's upgrading f5.
Oh wow. Well, this is actually really also reminiscent to back to that finals game I played with Istari, and he kind of did something similar. He upgraded on the opposite side of the board and denied leech to everyone else,
Yeah, it's
and he's
true.
doing that again here. It's I guess it kind of makes sense when you're in the fourth seed because you're going to be giving a lot more leech than you're going to be getting, I guess, by upgrading the center, since everyone else has already either upgraded or built around you. But I'm still kind of surprised because in a round 4 dig game, halflings can use the resource as well. But this is okay. This is kind of, I guess, maybe characteristic of Istari now. Like we don't get to see him play too often, but I've seen enough now to see that he will deny other players things like leech and bonus tiles when he can.
Yeah, that's super interesting actually, because it shows like when you start, you don't care too much about the leash. Once you learn the game, and when you get better, you say, "Oh, that's the most important thing to do is to maximize leech." And at some point, you start to think of, "Okay, how much I'm getting, but also how much I'm giving." And yeah, I think you're right. His point here is that because he's the fourth player, the trade-off was not good. Giving power to everyone, while if you compare what he gives compared to what he receives, he will get not that much more. With upgrading E6, maybe it will be like, well, it will be like 3 power more, maybe 4 power more. But he will give the table so much if he does.
Yeah, actually, the
So
more the more I see it, the more I like it. The more I look at it. Yeah, he'd only be getting he's still getting power, of course, just with people upgrading around him with his dwelling in the center. I mean, he's also not losing points for it as well. And yeah, he's just especially for someone like Chaos Magicians, they're so dynamic, they would love like the extra power here. And just denying that to them, and to Darklings as well, denying the extra power to them, I think is a pretty big factor.
yeah, it's certainly an interesting decision. And we see someone jumping on the priest here. So Darklings is going, Mr. Fickles is going for the priest. That's one thing we didn't talk about in this matchup. Your digs, I think that now that Oren are not on the east, there is no pressure at all for Darklings to dig g6. He can take his time for that. But it makes the race to d3 even more important. So Chaos Magician will have a good game in this matchup if they can beat Darklings to d3. But here I expect that Mr. Fickle should win that race.
Yeah, I'm curious where I guess he could go up there. I'm curious kind of where he goes with it because there's no obvious cult for the priest in as well. I guess yeah, I guess he'll dig once at e4 and once at g6. That would make sense. But it's funny, we were talking about all the maybe the potential pressure for Orin to get spades, and they lost the center of Gray Hex to Chaos Magicians, and yeah, there's no pressure on Orin anymore for spades. So it's kind of completely different from what we thought was going to happen at the start.
Yeah, I'm actually a little worried about now they've lost the center town. They're not anywhere near getting the east town. Uh, I mean, the center town is still there, of course, but it's going to be a bit more expensive. It will require a bridge. It's not as easy as if you can get e7, d5. I think his game plan is a little less clear here, and he has a very important decision to make. Whether he's going for a double spade here. He doesn't have, like, again, because of his starting position, it's not clear that he has the best hacks. He could take g2, I guess. Which, again, interesting decision. It's taking g2 takes it away from Chaos Magician, takes it away from all flames. So yeah, I'm curious to see what he's going for here. Will you take g2
Yeah.
here as Oren?
I forgot they didn't have temp ship. I was looking at other options with temp ship, but I forgot Chaos Magicians took temp ship. I probably wouldn't. I have to. It's hard for me to like just jump into a faction, just be like, and just try to make a decision off the bat. I have to really think about it. Yeah, I don't think I would. I think I might try to use the power for other things. Maybe for well, he's upgraded to a temple, so it looks like he probably wants Earth 1, I would think. Yeah, and so we saw Istari take Earth 1 as well, which is not surprising, but it means that Mr. Fickles will probably lose out on Earth 1. Because assuming Deepness will do a temple here for Earth 1 and maybe Fire 1 or another favor. But it seems likely that Darkness will miss out on Earth 1, which isn't the end of the world for them. They can kind of get by without it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sorry, to answer your question, I really don't know what I'd do as Nerd Cube. It is like an awkward position, like you said. It's not easy to play, that's for sure.
I think I've never seen a game where everyone is so reluctant to take the double spade. Usually, like, that's the first thing you want, right? And here it's kind of not clear at all.
Especially for halflings in a round 4 dig round, you think getting that worker income up, getting those dwellings down is so nice, and with the double spade. But yeah, Istari doesn't seem to be interested. Although he's probably gonna get it. I mean, he has Earth 1 now, and it's coming back to him, so he definitely will get Earth 1 and a double spade to start, which is really good for him, I think.
Yeah, and now you have like this kind of interesting situation that it's always the same problem, right? Where's going to dig? Does he
Yeah.
turn f6? Like, Mr. Fickle has two priests, right? I mean, and it could be interesting for Mr. Fickles to use these two priests of f6 if it's help him to get to e10. I mean, that's possible. So it's very hard, I think, for Starry to know where to use. If he takes like the single spade on f3 to use a double spade on g2, probably Oren answers by taking the double spade on g2, or there's a risk at least that happens. So it's a very kind of awkward situation here.
Yeah, it is. And I guess now looking back, it would have been it would have been really nice, I guess, in hindsight when we talked about halfling starting spots. If Istari had started at the whatever the easternmost brown hex, I always forget the
Absolutely.
index is. But now looking at this position, assuming if Darkling was still the same starting spot in the east, and he had started on the easternmost spot in the that brown hex there, he'd have a lot of options to dig here with both his double dig and his spade bonus. So that kind of maybe in hindsight that would have been a better decision to start in the far east. It would have avoided all this awkwardness, that's for sure, and given him a lot of good spots to build dwellings.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. The drawback and the way it would have completely changed the game is that he cannot upgrade on F7 because he has no neighbor there. So
Right? Yeah.
it would have been like it's like just such a little decision has so much impact on him. And we see him using his bonus fade on F3.
Yeah, no one wants the double spade. It's not important in this game. The highest level of Terra Mystica, no one really cares about the double spade. Yeah, look again. Orin Nurkic doesn't want it either. No one wants a double spade.
So I expect now that his Stanley will take it, but we'll see. Also
Yeah,
interesting what Mr. Fickles do with his priest. I know that's one of NerdCube's favorite topic. I personally would be super interested to send a priest to Earth because this priest worth 5 coins on Cult Income. But here he chooses to dig and to build up his worker economy that has a lot of value too, right? So it's another like kind of interesting decision. What's your take on that one? Would you have sent the priest to Earth here?
No, I think I would have done what Mr. Fickles did. I think I would have built 2 dwellings. Presumably he's gonna build another one. I guess I like priest to cults if you can get early rewards off them, and I guess you see the rewards will come in kind of later. I think if there's a round 1 coin reward, I might put the priest to Earth, but he also has Fire 1. Because he got locked out of Earth 1, or maybe he wanted Fire 1 the whole time, but he has Fire 1 in his favor, so his coin income is okay. So I think with that, it makes sense to use him to dig and build dwellings here. But it is always like an interesting decision and a tough decision. And I think it also maybe would depend on how culty the other factions are. Like if we saw witches in this game and maybe giants, let's say, instead of chaos magicians, if the cults look wide open, then maybe I'd be more inclined to send my priest to Earth here. But I personally I like Mr. Fickle's decision here to kind of build the dwellings.
Yeah, he's gonna have a extra economy for sure. I wonder like if he's able to follow up with that or with the Sanctuary in round 2. Will we see two economic favors darkening? That will be interesting. Maybe another temple, that's possible too.
I hope to see two economic favors just for the fun of it, just for entertainment.
Yeah,
Although it kind of makes sense. If you can get Water 1 later, it would be fine, I think, to get 2 economic favors. It
yeah.
might also be. I wonder. Do you think there's any way that Darklings could do a temple next round and a sanctuary round 3, or even a third temple in round 3, or is that just completely crazy? I'm
No,
looking at that round 4 digs and trying to see if they can get a lot of priest production kind of for those round 4 digs. But maybe that's a bit overkill. As you said, like it's easy to get overly focused on the round 4 digs. So maybe that wouldn't have been a good idea.
well, I mean, it's priest for Darklings will be good all over the game, not just for the run. I think I
That's
like
true.
this idea of going to economic favor. Maybe you do a temple on G5 and you chain with the sanctuary. I would love to see that. That would be very exciting, especially after seeing everyone else rush for Earth 1. Mr. Fickles, he went for the priest, and so it's a very assumed decision that he knew that he was probably risking missing on Earth 1. And I'm always a little more inclined to cheer for players who take this kind of risk. So
Yeah.
very looking forward to how we continue with that.
I am as well. Like when you're watching, you want to be entertained. I do at least when I'm watching. So I want to see the craziest moves possible. And speaking of which, I don't know if you saw what Nurkic just did, but he built a second temple. And I don't think I've ever seen a 2-temple orange start. That's got to be a first for me. So I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know what he has planned here. I mean, sending priests to cults looks really good in this game. The cult rewards look nice, and the way the fire cult stack is good. All the coins he'll get just from sending 2 priests to cults this round is nice. So I can't wait to see what he has in mind, and I might be rooting for NerdCube now after that opening.
Yeah, it's incredible actually, because he did it also before the temple round, right? Two temple
Yeah.
on, and when the temple round is next round. So that's super interesting, and yeah, I suppose that the fact that often when you see stronghold opening from Oren, the problem they have is that they're missing priests, and now, as you said, he's loaded with priests, and we know that probably Halflings want to keep most of his priests to advance digging. Darklings wants to use his priests to dig, and Chaos Magician wants to use his priests to advance shipping. So he probably is hoping to have kind of a free pass in cults. Oh, I think we just lost Barnwell. I suppose he will reconnect soon.
I'm
Oh,
back now.
okay, good.
Uh, the usual stuff my computer doesn't like
Yeah,
Discord.
no worries.
A couple times, unfortunately. Well, I kind of I missed the last part of what you said, but I'm curious if Narrakeem tries to advance dig this game now for round 4 digs because he's gonna have so many priests. He'll definitely be sending them to cults this round and next round, but he'll have 2 priests produced for round 4 as well. So maybe he will go for a digging strategy. And there isn't like a lot of incentive to advance shipping here without the ship pass tile, and he has to do something with those priests. I'm sure, like he's obviously such a good player that he has a plan with these priests. He's not just doing this like out of the blue for no reason. So I'm curious to see if he goes digging Orin here now.
I would love to see that. That will be very exciting. Also, there's here we saw that they'll probably. I often Elflings like to keep their priests, and so does Chaos Magician to advance shipping. I probably wasn't too happy to see the priest sent to hurt, and then the priest sent to fire. And he could not send the priest to water yet because he really needed to build E5 to avoid the chaos taking it. So maybe that part of the plan is not going perfectly according to what he was hoping. Uh, and about the digging plans, I'm trying to catch up with that and see if it's possible. The big question, of course, will be: can he build a worker economy big enough to use the digging in round 4? Right?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's there's no reason to be advancing around 4 if you don't actually have the workers to use that round. So it's a weird balance between producing priests, producing workers for the dig round, and also having a good amount of coins because it costs 10 coins to advance dig, which is a hefty cost. I guess that's nothing to sneeze at for sure. So like it's a big investment, and he did take Earth 1 and Air 2, so he didn't really take any. No, it's not like he took Earth 2 or Fire 1 or another econ favor to really kind of help him achieve that. Now, presumably he can get coins actions with Air 2 or maybe workers actions to help him. But it's not obvious how he's going to get the resources to use round 4 digs well. That's why I'm really curious to see kind of where he goes with this here.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really wondering too. What's the plan here? It seems like, yeah, I'm not sure I like Oregon game. The more I look at it, because he also needs 2 bridges for his town, and that's just so inefficient. I often like compare this, like everyone hates expensive trading posts. They think that you're the worst player in the universe if you're building expensive trading posts, but bridges are just the same cost an expensive trading post, right? It's 3 power that you could be 3 coins, and that's the cost of an expensive trading post. So I really think bridges are super inefficient, and there's a limited stock of them too. So yeah, I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of that.
No, that's like I was just gonna say they're actually I guess you could say worse than expensive trading posts because you can get bridge blocked or there's competition for bridges. There's only so many kind of opportunities you have to get bridges. So it's maybe he's just gonna. I guess the thing is if he does advance digging and goes digging ore, and he doesn't necessarily have to bridge from the temple, the stranded temple in the center. Maybe you can just dig out like town space to the south of it and just have a normal town there, I guess. Although Halfling's gonna be connecting through the south as well, so they'll probably cut him off. So no, yeah, you're probably right. He probably does need 2 bridges. Yeah, that's awkward. It's not like it's not ideal, that's for sure. That's not what you want, I guess, in this situation when playing a green faction on this map. And just to kind of move it to someone else, so we see Mr. Fickles looks like he's going for a second temple here, as well as digging out some territory here in the east. Yeah, he has I think quite a nice economy going with Fire
Yeah.
1 especially. And so yeah, I'm curious to see what favor he takes for the second temple here.
I'm rooting for Earth 2, and I think that's what we're going to see. But we'll see. I'm very curious about digging Earth E11 here, the black hex that he just dig. What? Oh, he had a spade. I had spade balls, so I guess that's the reason.
But it is interesting for him to dig that and not to dig E4 in the center.
Yeah,
As you said, there is that race to D3, the yellow hex there with Chaos Magicians, which Chaos really want. Like if Chaos Magicians get D3, I think they have a really good game here, potentially. And so yeah, having that one less spade in the west kind of to race to that hex might be a factor here. So yeah, I'm surprised he dug that hex as well. Curious as to why.
The only reason I can see is that he saw that Alfling could pass and did pass for the shipping bonus. So if he's turning e4 to black and not planning on building on it yet, he could lose it to an Alfling's spade potentially. So I suppose that's the reason here.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I think that would be an interesting idea for halflings to kind of to cut darklings off there if they could. That could make a lot of sense for them actually. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And we're seeing Chaos Magician here. What do you think of their opening? We haven't talked much about them yet.
Yeah, I think we haven't talked much about them because it's looked kind of, I guess, standard. No, I like it. I think defense looks really good. He's just built the sanctuary now. He's got a good amount of coins from the 6-coin bonus as well, and he's also really good position in the Earth Cult. I think he's in a really good spot here actually, and he has lots of space. There's as much as we talked about kind of his hexes potentially being taken by digging, because he kind of took the space he did in round 1 and now this round as well by digging that yellow hex, he has a lot of room to expand for round 3. And it's also a dwelling round, of course, so he'll score a lot of points in that round. So I think he's in a really good spot. And do you think he's? I don't know. Do you agree with me? And do you think he's the favorite here now? Because I'd be tempted to say maybe he's the favorite to win this game, looking at this position.
I think, yeah, I totally agree with you that he was able to take the space that he needs. He was able to get Earth 1. It seems like a very good. The only thing that didn't go well for him is the G2 hex being turned to yellow, but that's far from being the end of the world, especially if he can get to D3. And we've seen Darkling is not rushing toward D3, so I think it's looking good for him. The thing here, I mean, you will have a tough decision. Do you burn here 2 power to get a worker to build E8? Because depending on what NerdCube do here, it could think of the double spade on E8 to have a town there without needing a bridge.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'd kind of
I'd
sorry,
I would see what NerdCube's doing. Yeah, if NerdCube sends his priest to Cole here and gets power from that, for sure I'd take that hex. If he delays and still has the option to do that, then I might secure that hex as well. Because that's an important hex. You don't want to lose that hex. Not just for your town in the center, but also for your expansion out east. It's way tougher without that hex. So yeah, I think if I had the option, I might like if NerdCube does an action right now that prevents him from taking the double dig and taking that hex, then I'd probably just pass it up and build it next round. But if he threatens it at all here, then I think you have to take it.
Yeah, I think that's the sensible approach here. There's like the in-between situation if NerdCube pass, for example, what you do. But it makes a ton of sense for NerdCube to send a priest to the cults, right? Because of the cult event. So, oh no, he went for the coins.
Oh.
Interesting. So
okay.
Finesse here is just, I think, having everything he wants in this game up to now. Now we can just pass and build it next round.
Yeah, that's so nice. And because there's very little power in the bonus tiles, there's no way for NerdCube to like take a lot of power and steal that from him. Oh, it wouldn't matter because Defness would be moving before him next round anyways. So yeah, that looks great for him. And that's like interesting with NerdCube taking the coins too, because he's already going to be getting a lot of coins from the cults as well. He has one more priest, which yeah, as we're saying, he'll probably send to a cult, which would be another 2 coins. So he'll be pretty loaded in coins going into round 3, that's for sure. And that's generally kind of nice going into a dwelling round because in round 3 you'll want to build dwellings to score points, and those dwellings will give you a worker income the round after. So having a lot of coins going into the round will be good for balancing his economy in the late game, or for the round after that, I guess. So it does make sense seeing him take points, I guess, now that I think about it more.
Yeah, I wonder if he took the coin, could it indicate that he plans on advancing shipping? Rather than sending the priest to the cult and maybe build G3, C4, even if it's before the dwelling round. So, like playing more for economy than points, which he has kind of done up to now, and yeah, it looks that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if especially if he does want to go digging Orin, like we kind of talked about, as you mentioned, you need that worker economy. And so getting that up now is probably worth it. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, I think. I think that's a good decision, especially because the priest to cult doesn't really it gives you 2 coins, but there's not really like a really good use for that other than that right now, I guess. So no, I think it makes sense. I just can't wait to see what he does with this. I'm just excited to see it, really. Just kind of see this play out. And if he can I have to think he's going for advanced dig. I just the more like I have to think that's his plan here. So I really want to see if he can execute it.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think it gives you reason. It probably means that he has the plan of advancing digging that you suggested earlier in mind. The fact that he's concerned to build as many dwelling as he can now. So yeah, exciting stuff. And we've seen that Deep Finesse didn't take any chance in the end. He decided to build it anyway. So
Yeah, I guess that kind of goes in line with what I know of DFNS as a player. Like I think I always thought of him as like a pretty safe player, not one to take really big risks. Although he is playing Chaos Magicians here, which as we said is the ultimate risky faction, so maybe it doesn't hold up so well. But actually, I'm kind of curious because I've never played Nerd Cube, which maybe seems weird. But I've only played 100 or so live games, and for whatever reason, I never got matched up with them. So I'm kind of curious to hear from your perspective. Is this a kind of strategy you'd expect Nerd Cube to go for, like something that maybe very out of the box that not a lot of people would think of? If he is going Ding Orange, let's say.
Nurkiv, I think one of the reasons why he's such a strong player is that he's hard to categorize. I mean, he can. After at some point, I was thinking that he's this player who always goes part one, and you know that. It's not that he's just very good at sizing the opportunity of when to go for more economy, when to go for more for points. So I think like this flexibility that I think is characteristic for his style, and that makes also playing against him very hard to predict. So uh, that's the best I got for you. You were looking for a scouting report on him, but the truth is that he's very hard to categorize.
Okay, that's kind of what I got the sense just from having watched like games in here and there that he was playing. That's like he seems unpredictable, but not like unpredictable like a obviously not unpredictable like a bad player might do something crazy. His unpredictability would lead to kind of a certain plan that he has in mind. But that's good to know. I was hoping to kind of milk some information out of you from some of these players because I know you played more than I have going in here. So that's interesting. And actually, well, as something I've heard you mention on stream before is like one of your I think you said one of your strengths is kind of is the psychology of Terra Mystica, and I kind of like to think maybe that's one of my strengths too. So like I really want to kind of learn these players' tendencies and kind of try to be able to predict them better. And I'm kind of curious with Mr. Fickles because we haven't really seen him play high profile games. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's played any of the big tournaments. Um, I played him a couple times, and our game's been really close. I know he's a really good player, but I'm curious to learn more about his play style here too. Now that he has a chance to be in the spotlight.
Yeah, I'm on the same spot actually. Yeah, you're right that he hasn't played much in the big tournaments. He's obviously a very gifted player because he got very good very fast with not that much experience. To me, like in the write-up, I described him as the dark horse of this tournament. I really don't know actually what to expect from him, and I'm very curious also to see what he will do.
Yeah, as you said, it's fitting with his profile picture. Literally a dark horse. Maybe is that intentional? Did he put that intentionally to kind of go for that? Maybe.
We'll
Who
we'll
knows?
have to, we'll have to ask him.
Yeah. And also with Astaris, I mean, we saw him in the Fire 2 tournament, and I played with him a couple of games in that tournament. But I don't know how, maybe he's played one game in live play since then. Like we haven't seen him play much, so he's still kind of. I'm learning a bit, I guess, more about him as I see him play more now too, because there's not really much information on his star either. But yeah, again, we know, you can just look at his elo and see the skill level there. So we know there's a lot of talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's hasn't played as much in either, especially in four-player games. But that's something I find very impressive about him. Actually, like the level of play he has, with like the so little experience he has in four-player game. I think it shows you that he is a very gifted player too. Um, and speaking of him, he had a very tough situation, I think, to start with. And what do you think of his game?
I still like it. I was just looking at it now. It looks like he'll get. I mean, if he wants to harden to get Hex, he'll get Temple and 7 Dwellings going into the dig round. Or you can save the workers for the dig round. But I still think he's in a pretty good position. He'll get. I mean, he certainly has position for 2 towns, no problem. I think he can get a 3rd town probably if he digs around Mr. Fickles there in the east, if he has enough workers to triple dig that gray hex. So I don't think Mr. Fickles will want the brown underneath him. Maybe he will, but I don't know. I think if Istari can hit the dig round well, which he looks like he will, and also get 3 towns this game, he'll be getting some network points because Darklings aren't going to be connecting, or very unlikely they'll be connecting. I still think he's in a pretty good position. Like if I was playing halflings here, I'd be pretty happy with my position. Like, what do you think? What are your thoughts on his game so far?
Yeah, I think he succeeded to get a lot of dwellings out. So he has 6 dwellings out before the dwelling round. A lot of workers are coming in, so he's gonna have a big digging round. So yeah, I think he's done very well from the starting position he had. I think he's done very well.
And he also, like, he's ahead in victory points right now too. Well, we'll see what it's like at the end of the round, but he's going to be near the lead in victory points going into the dig round, going into a very high scoring round for halflings. So he's going to have a really high score at the end of round 4, and that'll be the way the last 2 rounds in the track are. I mean, we kind of mentioned that round 6 dwellings can be a high scoring round. Round 5 big buildings isn't that high scoring, and I don't think any of these factions really love that. Maybe you'll see a couple sanctuaries. I mean, maybe Chaos Missions will do a stronghold. I don't know. With landscapes, maybe it's possible. Maybe Ornn will do a stronghold, but it's not like a round that anyone can really take advantage of that much. So I think if he can have a big point gap at the end of round 4, a big point lead at the end of round 4, and have 3 towns coming in for the last 2 rounds, I think he'll be in a really good spot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's already starting to get an important point differentials, and very curious to see how high it will be at the end. I mean, of next round, can he reach? Oh, he sent his priest to fire. That's interesting too. So he wants a cult reward there. But that means he has to find another priest to advance digging. But I don't think it should be any problem. Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. The other faction that I want to hear your thoughts about are Darklings. We hadn't followed on that. We were cheering for a second economic favor. We got it, but it's not the one that we were expecting.
Oh
We
wow,
got Air 2.
Air 2. I didn't even notice that. I guess we got distracted by talking about the different players and like their styles. I didn't even notice it took Air 2. I guess actually that makes sense because I mean, and he's built a lot of dwellings now in this round, so he has a really good worker economy, so he doesn't really, I guess, need the extra worker income, and maybe the power is more useful. I I'm not sure about the late game plan here for Darklings because you're not connecting and you're not gonna have good cult presence here with Ornn and Chaos Magicians in the game, so you're not gonna have good end game points. So if you're playing Darklings, you need to like score in game points really well by hitting the track and by hitting bonus tiles. And you can see he's on a bonus tile, so he'll score from Dwelling Past there. But he's already made 1 town and he's at 40 points now. So you think you'd want to hit 3 towns in this game as Darklings. He doesn't have Earth 1, so he's not going to score a ton of favor points. So I'm a bit iffy on Mr. Fickle's position here. Like I think it's going to be tough for him to score a ton of points kind of throughout this game. He'll hit the dig round pretty well next round, but after that, I think it'll be a challenge for him. That's my thoughts, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's gonna be like big round coming. But after that, what's gonna be left for him? That's good
He
question.
definitely needs So he definitely needs water 1. There's no question about that, I think, if he has any chance in this game.
Yeah, so Sanctuary for water 1 in round 5? It seems like it's so late for the Sanctuary in round 5.
Yeah, it's so expensive for Darklings. So the Sanctuary costing 10 coins is such a huge cost. And yeah, you really build it for that extra priest production because that'll pay off later in the game. And to do it in round 5, I mean, it'd be more of a scoring play, yeah, for the round bonus and for water 1. Like, he might have to, though. If he doesn't have water 1 at that point and has potential to be water 1 blocked, then he might have to do that. But that would be, yeah, it's not ideal. Like, I remember I think you've said it before that you, as Darklings, you usually don't want to build your Sanctuary any later than round 4. And usually you
Yeah.
want it earlier than that. And so round 5 that's pushing the limits, that's for sure. Although I
Yeah.
guess in this game, because it's landscapes, he could go Stronghold, and I guess he'll have an extra dwelling, I guess you can say, for the last round with the landscape, which is something. So maybe he'll build a Stronghold round 5 and kind of work from there. But it's not it's not clear kind of what his late game direction will be.
Yeah, that will be interesting, the Stronghold. The only problem is how do you get it at the same time than getting getting water 1? And do you like play with no scoring favor? That seems tough. I would love to see it work. It will be very interesting. But without network and without Cove, I doubt that you can do it. The other thing that I see problematic for him is that, yeah, I guess it just passed before Chaos Magician, so I suppose even if Chaos takes with this first move, you'll have to take e4, and if Chaos takes d3, then he can take e3. I suppose he has no other choice. But that's kind of a shame because he took air q in order to have power actions, um, and now he's gonna have to skip it in order to secure the territory in the west.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a bit of a consequence, I guess, of not digging e4 earlier, as we kind of talked about before. Instead, he chose to dig out west, and you kind of see how that could punish him here. He doesn't want to take e3. Like, that's not. Oh, I guess on a dig round, I guess he can afford the priest to take it. It's not a big deal, but it's a bit awkward. As you said, you'd rather take power actions. Although halflings do take the coin action first turn, so you wouldn't be getting that anyways.
Yeah, Alphonse made an interesting play for his past play last round. He passed for the priest rather than the big building. I think many people have been interested to go for the big building because it's 2 workers in a dig round, and then go for the priest action. But I think his play is totally correct. Those 2 digs are not that important. You want the coin action for yourself, but to deny the table too. So, good play again by Asteri. I think continuing to play a very solid game, I believe.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I think you can't underestimate coins in general in Terra Mystica. Like in the late game in Terra Mystica, they're so important. You can do so much with them, and yeah, denying them to other players is huge. Yeah, I like his position a lot. Even more so than I did last round, I think, which is saying something. And looking at Nerdcube, I think I'm sad to say that I don't think he's going to be advancing digging. He doesn't have the coins for it. So
Yeah,
maybe he'll do a hard digger 2 this round. He did get a lot of dwellings out last round. He's sitting at a temple, 2 temples and 7 dwellings. So he has a pretty amazing economy with air 2 as well. But as you said, he's gonna need to start securing bridges. So maybe he'll take a bridge this round. Maybe he'll do a hard dig. But yeah, it's later rounds it's not obvious what he's gonna be doing now that we know he's not gonna be digging.
yeah. I think in your cube seat here, you're thinking of probably an early pass. There's this very juicy uh, trading post bonus tile with 4 coins on it. So probably, as you said, he needs bridge. Maybe like take b5 also or something. Maybe h4 is super important too. Now that I think of it, maybe more important than b5 because Halflings could very well decide to take that with his digs. So I suppose you take h4 and you pass something like that. I expect.
Yeah, and he has his bonus spade. So yeah, he'd use that right off the bat. Yeah, I guess there probably won't be a lot of bridge pressure actually, because maybe halflings want to bridge if they decide to bridge across the eastern continent in the south there to form a town. But otherwise, that's about it. Darklings have no need for a bridge. Chaos magicians, they can take a bridge, I guess, if they want, but they don't need to take a bridge. So there's not a ton of bridge pressure. But as you said, needing 2 bridges in 3 rounds is scary. And if he doesn't take one this round, it means he needs 2 bridges in 2 rounds in the last rounds. And that's kind of a recipe for disaster. That's just asking to be bridge blocked by someone. So
Yeah,
I think there's a good chance he digs and either builds a dwelling or puts his landscape down, takes a bridge, and then passes out of here. And that would
yeah,
also let him get the coin action for next round and have tempo on getting water one. So I think I agree with you. I think an early pass makes a lot of sense for Nerdcube.
yeah. You've convinced me too. I think he needs to. He needs at least two action. He needs to dig 8-4 and he needs a breed action. And I don't. Maybe the only other person who could think of passing early will be Chaos Magician. I think the other two are going to have a very long round.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so too. And oh, sorry, as they usually dig rounds are very long rounds for anyone that wants to take advantage of digging. So halflings and darklings for here for this round, or particularly for halflings. They have a lot they want to do this round. I kind of
yeah,
like we haven't talked about, I guess, deep finesse and chaos magicians and what he's been doing. We see he doesn't rush to take D3. So it's not a high priority for him, at least. It's
I
I
suppose you expect that Darklings will take E3 the minutes he dig D3, so
yeah,
that's probably his problem here.
yeah, that's a good point. Um, so I wonder where else he's going to plan on building this game then. He still has enough space, I think, to do pretty well as Chaos Magicians here. But I mean, he's most likely going to be limited to one town then if he can't get the space in the west there. This map is just so hard to town up with as a red faction, especially as Chaos Magicians. It's so awkward to find town spots on the base map here. And so you can have a good game with one town, but without the ship bonus tile, it's a bit harder to score. So I'm kind of, yeah, I'll be curious to see what his late game direction is as well, because it's not obvious to me what he'll be doing.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. I think losing both E3 and G2, it means that the whole south is close to him, and all of a sudden it seems the potential of the non of Chaos Magician with no color neighbor has shrunken a lot. Uh, it's two towns. We see him building a trading post here, probably to get tempo for the temple. And we've seen also Mr. Pickles going for the sanctuary in the round four. So that's an interesting choice too. So
Yeah, he followed.
here's sorry, go
Sorry, so
ahead.
I was gonna say he followed your advice. Don't build it later than round 4. So maybe he was thinking of you when he built that.
But yeah, he needed water one for sure. He lose 5 points for the round on the round 5, but he gets 4 points out of his bonus tiles, and he'll get 2 points out of getting the priest earlier. So it seems like a good choice, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot he was on the bonus tile, so that, especially being on that bonus tile, it makes a lot of sense to build a sanctuary now. More sense than it would to save it for round 5. And maybe we can see a stronghold round 5 now. We can see what we're hoping for from Mr.
Yeah,
Fickles. It's also just interesting. Have you ever seen an Ornn game without the stronghold being built at this point in the game? 'Cause I don't think I've ever seen. Every time I've seen an Ornn game, the stronghold is usually built by round 3. And Nerdcube has no intention of building it this round, that's for sure. Maybe next round he'll want to build it, but it's interesting to me. I think it's something I haven't seen before.
yeah, it's true. I mean, I've seen it before, but usually the thing is on Snellman, for example. If you're playing without auction, then the question is why didn't you take witches? You will have
Yeah.
like 15 more points if you're not going to build a stronghold. But with the landscape, I suppose, and the fact that it's auction, you probably decided to play a little bit closer to the track. We see here it costs him. He's far from towning, right? That's a big problem. If you want to use the landscape, you need to be able to tap these cults, and we see that Chaos get the 2 key town, and he's aggressive on that. So that's not a blow, I think, for Orin's game right now.
Yeah, that's something we didn't really talk about is the race to the two key town. And that's with Ornn's landscape, that's really important for them to score in cults well, to hit the cult rewards well, but also to score with their landscape. The extra key is really valuable. And yeah, so for him losing out on that, and also with like as a kind of I guess a consequence of not having built a stronghold earlier is that his cult position isn't that good. Maybe he'll still find a way to top out the water and air cults and get points from that with his landscape, but it's not clear now that he lost to Tukey Town how well he's gonna do in the cults. So that's this also really all boils back to Deep Finesse's decision in round one to dig the center gray hex with his first action, and you really kind of see the the benefits of that for Deep Finesse and kind of like the consequences of that for Nerdcube in this scenario here. And to go even one step further, actually, if you look back to the bonus tiles and Deep Finesse taking Temp Ship before Nerdcube can take it in the first round, giving him the power to dig that hex, and not letting Nerdcube have the power to dig that hex. So just like that little decision makes such a huge impact later on in the game.
Yeah, I think that's where you see the skill of the player. Like he didn't take the power bonus because it was that good for him, right? He took it to make sure Nerdcube will not get the power to take the spade as his first action. And I think Deep Finesse, I haven't played much with him. I think I've played once or something. But one thing I've noticed about him is that it's a player that is so aware of everything on the map at the same time. And he knows what people are trying to achieve, and he's ready to block them if he thinks there's a way to block them. So it's a I think he's a very tough player to face. We've seen it again. I mean, with his first move of the game, right? The first bonus he picked.
Yeah, like I played him a bit, and like I definitely agree. He's really good game awareness. Well, we saw a lot in the Fire 2 Open Finals. I remember at various points he was nomads and taking temp shifts to deny it to Green Faction, like passing at the right times to deny things to people. So he definitely has that in him, like that denial aspect in him. And it's important in high level play. If you're playing against really good players, like you need to make sure other players aren't doing that well. As much as you're trying to make sure you're doing really well, you also need to make sure that other players are struggling if you can. And yeah, defense is really good at that. And his own game doesn't usually suffer too. Like he usually finds a way to have a good game while also making your life miserable when playing against him. So I'm sure I'll experience more of that in the next few games here in the Premier League when I get to play him more.
Yeah, that's so true what you're saying about like getting to that level of denial. I at some point before like everyone was started to join like before COVID basically, before we got so many great players coming. Um, I know that I thought that the right way to play Terra Mystica was with very little denial. Um, uh, I think that I've suffered a lot from this mentality and learned that I had to adapt. And that's one of the reasons I have a lot of admiration for people who are able to do that well now. And I think Deepness is definitely one of them. And we see here like the Tukey Town. So another aspect that is both kind of good for him and good for denial. So Nurture was something that he wanted, but also it gave him the power in order to get the two spades on a digging round. So the ability like to combine these two things, to not just deny the Tukey Towns to Nurture, but to do it at a time where it gives him the power to get double spade at the best time for him to get it. I think it's high level play there.
Yeah, that's really nice. Whenever you can combine a good move with another good move, kind of back to back like that, when they lead into each other, I think that's how your games get really good in Terra Mystica. And it's really good here for Deep Finesse because it's going to give him a second town. I think he'll find a way to form a town there. He has Fire too, so I'm actually really curious to see if he kind of bites the bullet and does an expensive trading post there and a stronghold next round. With his northern dwellings there in kind of preparation for forming a town. And he can even slap his chaos portal down on that red hex as part of the town as well. I think because I don't know if Darklings are ever going to be his neighbor there. I think he might be neighborless, but it's not. As you said, it's like taking a bridge. It's not a big deal to do an expensive trading post when you have a 15 coin income, like what Deepness has right now. So I think he might do that, which I think is going to be important for him in this game actually because Darklings did kind of shut him down in the West and he doesn't have that space to expand. I think the second town might be necessary for him to score points here. But I'm curious if he does kind of do that.
Yeah, I hope we do see the chaos portal in this game. I mean, that's one of the things you don't see that many often. Yeah, I think that you're absolutely correct. That he's definitely doing expensive trading posting. Question will be like, does he do one and then stronghold, or does he do two? Maybe he will do two. It's not impossible either. As you said, he's drowning in money right now. So yeah, looking forward to see what will be his strategy there.
Yeah, and actually interesting is that Istari just so everyone else had passed out of the round, and Istari's had a lot of time to do what he wants, and he did a temple for Water 1 this round. Made sure to lock up Water 1. So instead of using his last 4 workers to dig, he did that, and now Water 1s are all gone now, and Nerdcube or Orin is kind of locked out of Water 1 here. And he presumably like Nerdcube would have taken it with his first action this round. So that's like an interesting play by Astari. I think it's yeah, I think it's pretty smart. I think Water 1 will be more important than those maybe 3 or 4 digs would have been this round. So that's another good example of kind of I guess high level players having that foresight and looking ahead. Istari knows he's not gonna get Water 1 if he doesn't take it this round, so he kind of bites the bullet, has a bit less of an explosive dig round, and the trade off is that he gets Water 1 and will be able to score points with his trading post later. But that's like an interesting, I guess, trade off. I guess you see in Terra Mystica, in high level Terra Mystica.
Yeah, totally. I think it shows like again that Terra Mystica is a game where you have to know to make compromise. If you're trying to get everything, it's not gonna work. So here, I mean, it's so tempting. Those 4 workers that he views, they mean um, they were meaning 12 points. It's so tempting to use them today. But um, I'm saying that. Uh, will he get 12 points out of Water 1?
Um, maybe that's hard to say. Yeah, maybe that's a good point. I mean, he's denying it to Nerdcube too, but I think
Yeah.
we kind of talked about Nerdcube's position not being great here, so that maybe not being as big of a deal as denying it to another player here. Um, maybe not. Although he might, because I wonder if Istari might. Well, I was gonna say he might try to maybe just do a sanctuary here in preparation for a town there, have a fast round, and pass on to the coin pass tile to have kind of a big round 6 and build lots of trading posts and dwellings to finish up his towns. But he's not. Maybe he's still doing that, but he's not doing that immediately, at least. Um, I don't know. I guess the jury's still out if that Water 1 will be valuable or not. Then we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And
One thing
he
is,
also didn't. Sorry, I was gonna say he also didn't do what I thought he might do and triple dig that gray hex in the east to dig around form 3 towns there. So it looks likely he'll do 2 towns, I guess. Then, although I guess he can still do that late in the game. He still has some options as long as he has a good enough economy.
yeah, he has tons of worker coming up from the fire cult. So if he wants to dig it in round 6, that might be his plan. It's still, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not sure actually about the F3 temple, but it's definitely a key decision and an interesting one. And as you said, we'll have to hold judgment and see at the end of the game in the end. But yeah, very, very exciting play here.
Yeah, I'm not good at judging things mid game as good or bad. Like I just can't do it. I don't know. Some people are maybe just a lot more clear cut about what's good and what's bad, but to me it's always just kind of like a question mark until everything's resolved at the end. For the most part. Although I guess if you see like a low level player do a hard dig in the first round, that doesn't make any sense then then that's different. But like when it's like a decision like that you can kind of see both sides too, I'm always just like, I don't know, I'll see later. I'll see what it's like later.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, with such high level player, the decision they are making, there's reason behind, right? So it's trade off, and that's what is hard to evaluate. Uh, and yeah, we'll see at the end of the game. And it's possible that at the end of the game, that decision is not the factor either that decides whether Hysteria has a good game or not. So it's the beauty of the game. There's just so many possibilities.
Yeah, and anything can happen. And we do see the Chaos Magician expensive TP and Stronghold. So
Beautiful.
that's amazing. I was kind of hoping I the one memory I have of the Chaos Magician Stronghold, I think it was like Rainier was playing in this map and he built it and he stuck the Chaos Portal right in the bottom right corner just out of spite. So I was almost hoping Deepness would do that, but obviously that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I remember doing that once too. Now, the worst is I think that It ended up being a very bad move because there was an option I had, but I didn't see, which will have made me win that turn. But it's just how much I hate the portal. Um,
It is like you kind of see, or I see the idea behind the development, like why the developers made it the way it is, like kind of to make the Chaos Magician Stronghold more useful and to give them more like room around the map to let them, I guess, expand easier and not get cut off as easily. But it's just not in practical situations, like it's not good. Like this is
yeah,
about the most practical situation you can have for a chaos portal. Just putting it on a useful hex that will help form a town. It's basically like a free dwelling, I guess, but you don't get any points for it. But
yeah,
it just like I like how I like the idea of trying to make the stronghold more useful, but there must have been a better way to do it that didn't involve this chaos portal that doesn't really do much for you.
yeah. Just how I know said that they could have just like added one thing that the portal gets you connection. That the portal, no matter where it
Yeah.
is, it's connected, and that would have been really cool. I think. Just thematically, it would have been super strong. So yeah, shout out to you, for my teammate Presso. I think that was a very good idea. Um, yeah, as it is, as you said, it's scoreless dwelling, and that's about what it does.
Yeah, I'm all on board with that idea too. I think that's a great idea having a meat connection. I would just make it a lot more interesting for chaos magicians. You have a lot more options with that. Well,
Yeah,
if only maybe it'll be patched at some point and that will be part of it. Unlikely, but we can dream.
yeah, totally. So
It's like
we,
I just kind of sorry. I also
yeah,
just
go
noticed
ahead.
like another reason for chaos magicians to build their stronghold this game, aside from the fact they're scoring points with it. Well, not another reason, but it's not like usually you don't want to build the stronghold if you're worried about the network race because you have to spend a lot of resources for the stronghold to build it. But in this case, the network is like I guess Orin and the front runners would network here, but it's pretty low. Like everyone has a pretty small network, so you can maybe get away with playing like a smaller network game and still scoring well on network. So I think it's another reason kind of another reason that I like the decision for Deep Finesse to build the stronghold.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think the network here. I mean, when I'm darkling, I'm always kind of having in the back of my mind to have the connection plan pulled out of like nowhere. Is there any way Mr. Fickle's advanced shipping twice here? Is that like and take B3,
Hmm.
B4? Probably NerdQ has too many workers, so you would have like to wait until NerdQ pass or something. Otherwise, NerdQ will just take B5. But I wonder, like, if you're NerdQ, for example, do you preemptively take B5 to make sure that that doesn't happen?
I mean, maybe Nerdcube has so many workers that I don't know what else you'd do with them. I guess you
Yeah,
can convert them to coins and use them for other things, but like he could certainly you could double dig B5 without even blinking. I mean, it's not, like nothing for his workers, and he's getting 8 more workers next round. Um, that'd be really cool. I'd love to see a sneaky Darklings connection by Mr. Fickles, and that would be a way to make his game like a lot better. I think if he can somehow connect, there's a decent chance he'd win network or come in second to Orn at least, which would be a good number of points here. It's just yeah, you want to be really sneaky with it, but it's hard to see a way that he can really be sneaky here. Like you'd have to advance shipping twice and build 3 dwellings or build 2 dwellings, I guess, right? That would
yeah,
be the
something.
only way you could kind of sneak it in this round.
Yeah,
Maybe.
he could build 3 dwellings. He'll advance shipping twice and build 3 dwellings. He just have to convert one worker to one coin. That's not a big deal for him. But I expect NerdCube will like the problem is to do it without NerdCube noticing that you're doing it, and
Yeah.
I think that NerdCube is just too much. Too, I mean, that's the kind of play that you can pull out in the arena. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
with a player as talented as NerdCube, I don't believe he's gonna let that pass.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like and even if Mr. Fickles wants to do that, he'd have to kind of delay a bit, and he doesn't have too many like to delay before advancing shipping to like to hide his intentions, and he doesn't have a ton of ways to really delay. He needs 2 priests advanced shipping and 2 priests to dig a yellow hex. So he really yeah, I know he really can't hide his intentions here. Like he has to either go for it or not go for it. And I agree
Yeah,
with you. I think if he goes for it, Nerdcube will shut that down pretty quickly.
and we see so. One thing I think Defense did very well in this game was exploiting cult reward. So he was able to get 10 coins for like the best event for incomes, right? He was able to get 10 coins out of the Earth cult reward on round 4. And here he's already secured 5 workers of the fire truck. So that looks pretty good for him.
Yeah, that's the ultimate cult rewards. Exact like maximum cult rewards here from him. That's always nice to have that. That's really satisfying when you kind of when you have all that cult income like just like pouring in. That's a good feeling. Yeah, that'll help him a lot. I don't know what he'll. Well, it's a dwelling round. He can use those workers to dig and build dwellings in the last round. And he has a lot of dwellings to build. I think he has 4 right now. Maybe he'll do another trading post and free up another dwelling for himself. And that would make sense. He wants to balance his economy anyways. So he has. I think he has use for those workers. Do you think there's any way he advances dig in the last round and then uses that to dig out dwellings? Like, does he have the coin economy for that?
Yeah, I think you have a very good point. I mean, with the amount of workers that he has, he will definitely think of it. I mean, you have to consider it, and that's advancing the game in round 6. I mean, if nothing else, it's 12 points, right? 12 points is huge. It's not bad by itself, even by not digging at all. It's not a bad point resource to points conversion. So yeah, I think it can be very reasonable for Chaos Magician to think about advancing his digging.
Yeah, I think so too. Like he has like right now he basically has 6 coins plus the 5 power, which he'll probably use as coins as well. So he essentially has 11 coins right now. He's getting at least 3 with his income, and he'll find a way to get more coins through power and whatnot as well. So he should have a good enough economy to advance digging here. I think that makes a lot of sense. Who do you think is the front runner right now? Like if you had to pick someone, who do you think will win this game?
That's always so tough, and I've been doing it. I think it's important to do it, but in when you're casting, I think strangely you should be at a better position to evaluate everyone. But it seems that you kind of tend to have a little superficial view on everyone, and it's not as good as when you're totally committed to one game plan with one faction. I find my impression here is that Chaos is having a great game. I mean, he's guaranteed network points since Darkling is not going for connections. He's already have won 2 calls. He should finish Sagan in 2. He can advance digging next round and put a lot of dwellings down. So yeah, that's what I would say right now is in the lead for me. What's
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I
the
like.
thing. When you ask question, then you have to answer it.
I was just gonna say I knew it's gonna come back to me, so I asked you first, so I had time to think about it. um, like no, because like you're right. I mean, just from the one game I've casted and also this game as well, like you'd think it would be easier because you have to pay so much attention when you're casting, but you're not. Like you're trying to think about what to talk about too, and trying to catch everything going on. So actually, like assessing who's doing well is tough when you're casting. But I agree. I think Defense is in a good spot. Like the main thing to me is his cult position is really good, and he has Earth 1. Is going to be able to build a lot of dwellings and advanced dig for the last round and score a lot of points with that. And he's also likely going to get on a pass tile. He doesn't have one right now, but he has a lot of ways to delay here for a pass tile. The other person I was looking at is Astari, but we see Darklings does triple dig that gray hex in the east, and that really cuts off any dreams of 3 towns for Astari. And without that third town, he'll still score well, but I'm not sure if his game is better than Definesse's without that third town. I guess time will tell, but that's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected Mr. Fickles to cut him off there, but maybe I mean I guess Mr. Fickles doesn't have much of a good use for his priests. I mean he's clearly not gonna try to connect, as we talked about. So I guess he might as well just kind of be as disruptive as possible. And taking that hex is yeah, it's really annoying for Astari, I think. So yeah, I think I to answer the question, I think Deep Finesse is in the best spot here, despite the 20-point gap right now with Astari.
You know what? It's funny because I was thinking that Mr. Fickles may have missed the playthrough connection. Actually, I think that if he didn't,
Oh,
if he used a priest as a waiting move, let's say to dig E2 or H7, that's when Nurture went for his stronghold. Uh,
yeah.
and then it's not clear that Nerd Q has the workers to dig B5, and so maybe you advance shipping twice, take A11, and then B5. That takes 3 priests. And so if you had used only one to dig H7 where E2 still had those priests, and then connection is very hard to stop for other players. So maybe there was something going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about A11, but saving that priest with that is nice. I guess, and I guess in hindsight, I haven't been paying I haven't done a good job of paying attention to the bonus tiles this game, but Nerdcube is on the Stronghold Sanctuary Pass, and especially in a Stronghold round, like we know he wants to build a Stronghold that's just 9 points straight up, as well as the cult action, which is nice. So I guess you could predict that he was going to build the Stronghold knowing that. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he should have gone for connection. Although Nerdcube does still have 6 workers, so he still could double hard dig that hex and put his landscape down there. So
Oh
I
yeah,
guess
that's
he
true.
still could cut him off.
Yeah,
And he probably would. He probably would do that if he had to, I think.
yeah.
That's so
You're
maybe
right.
yeah, I guess maybe it wouldn't have worked out then.
Yeah, you're right. I it's didn't thought about the landscape. So yeah, there was this play for Nerdcube.
Also Nerdcube took water too. He took I guess he got denied water 1, so he took air 1 with the sanctuary and then water 2 with the stronghold. I guess he had nothing better to take other than water 2. I guess that so I mean I'm sure that is fine, it makes sense. And I guess the cult steps will be useful in fire cult maybe. I don't know, but it's just yeah, it's unusual. You don't usually see a round 5 water 2 selection. So
Yeah,
it's another kind of unusual, I guess, thing in NerdQ's game that we're seeing.
and I wonder now. I mean, we were seeing that Chaos has the best game. You look at Nerdcube's game right now. He has as many points. He has better network. He has similar cults. Are we like underestimating his game?
That's a good point, maybe.
And it's
Um,
on. He's gonna pass for a
although
lot.
yeah, I guess it depends. Is Defense gonna if Defense passes now and takes trading post pass, you deny the pass tile to NerdCube. If NerdCube can pass on that, well, I guess NerdCube has a stronghold action and his cold step. He has a lot of things he could be doing instead. Maybe we are underestimating him. Yeah, this sounds familiar to me. Again, the other game I casted was that international class game, and I was underestimating Orin the whole game, and I'm doing it again. What do you know? Um, so maybe we are underestimating him. Maybe he's still got a shot here, especially because as we said, like the network game is so open. Network is so open right now. So if Nerdteam can win network, and he's scoring well in cults, even if he's only winning 2 cults, he's still scoring well, and he has 8 points coming from his landscape when he does lock up those cults. But maybe you're right. Maybe he's in a decent spot. Maybe we've been kind of shortchanging him here a bit.
Yeah, and he has like these. I remember seeing an Ozymandias win with Oren, and I don't know if it was in round 4 or round 5, but he didn't use 2 cult action. So there was this like his stronghold cult action, and I think it was on the cult bonus 2, something like that. Like there was a lot of things that he could do, and he decided to pass rather because he wanted the bonus tile. So I was wondering if we will see a similar kind of play from Nerdcube here. He decided to use his landscape first, his cult action first, but I'm sure that he's not. It he could decide not to use water Q here, especially since he has only 1 key, so he cannot win water anyway. I don't think this worker is that important for him. I suppose for deep finesse doesn't change much, right? Whether he probably prefer actually the big building tile. So
Yeah,
I suppose both players know that, and that's why Nerdcube feel comfortable delaying. You expect that Deep Finesse will delay as much as he can. So that's kind of an interesting play there too.
yeah. Like, as you're talking there as well, I noticed the same thing that DFNS really would rather have the big building pass tile. We don't know how many trading posts he's gonna have up in the last round. Presumably he'll have at least 1 up, maybe 2. But that's like I mean, no question the big building pass tile will be better for him. So that makes sense. So it's kind of like it's like a snail race to pass, I guess. Um, it's also interesting that DFNS took a worker town with his when he finished that town there, which like it seems weird to me because right now he has 14 workers coming in total, 5 with the cults and I guess
Yeah.
9 with his income. So we wanted more workers on top of that. I I'm kind
Yeah.
that I don't quite understand that. I'm not sure what his thought process is there. I'm sure I know he has something in mind. Like I know in DFNS he has something specific in mind, but I don't know what it what it could be.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Uh, One thing that uh, I've noticed too is that I think Deep Finesse has in his mind to steal a water cult from Nerdcube who has new keys. I mean, he basically need one temple and that's it.
Oh yeah, that would be a big swing. Not only is that the swing in cults, but it's also 4 less points for Orin for not topping the cult with their
Yeah.
landscape. That'd be a really big swing, actually. I guess that, yeah, maybe let's see if he can go for that. We do see Nerdcube pass now, so Nerdcube kind of uh is the first to blink, I guess, in this staring contest for the pass tile. And that means Nerdcube will have tempo to win the cult. He can finish his town. He did take a bridge this round, as what kind of happened as we were talking there. So he can finish. He can do a trading post for his first action next round, and take a cult town to lock up the town if he wants.
Oh boy, that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
so he will have tempo to do it.
Oh,
I
that
think he'll go for it too. It's pretty important for him to get that.
Yeah, totally. But that means just that the worker town maybe. I don't know if I'm reading that completely wrong, but that could be like another reason why it will have been better to go for the cold town for Chaos Magician, because to
Yeah,
deny it to Oren to be able to steal water from him.
that's a good point. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it would have been better. And he used his um like either way, he couldn't afford to build the temple last round to win the cult. I think he was 1 coin short. So those extra workers didn't really do him anything useful since he's not gonna win that race anyways, likely. So I agree with you on that, I think. You see, well, we see again Astari getting another coin action. I mean, it's hard to keep track of the coin actions as we're talking here, but it's always interesting to see if someone's kind of dominated the coin actions and taken a lot of them. And Astari's had at least two. I
Yeah.
think he's only had two actually, but if he had three plus coin actions, that'd be pretty significant. But even now, his economy is really nice. Um, and he'll get 2 towns or he has 1 town already made, so he'll do one more town. He doesn't have a pass tile though, and I guess his network game isn't the greatest. Although he has a lot of dwellings to build, so he's still in the running, I think, to win as well. Yeah, has your opinion changed on who you think will win this game now after the end of that, I guess, interesting round 5?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting right now. Our participants are 7 points. There's a 7 points difference between our players right now, so it's very tight in terms of how many points can we get on the last round. We see, of course, then there's a cult, which is just split between Orin and Chaos Magician, basically. So right now, I like both of their games. Just seeing on that, and the network. It seems that halflings have a little bit, maybe a small one, and we'll see if they can find late expansion. We've seen some players sometimes with halflings. You think that they're done, but history still has like resources. I mean, there's open access. If you can get to 2 ships, there's H3, there are B3, there are A7. Uh, so can he get there? Does Chaos Magician advance digging and denies the Northern Hex for him? I would not be surprised. So I'm not sure. So the more I think about it, the more I'm not sure that Halflings are doing so well here with no cult, no network. And Darklings, well, they have tons of resources, but 83 points in a game where you have no cult and no network, I don't think is enough. I think um, I think it has to be. Well, Darklings has 1 town coming, and so that's all things. It's very hard to say. I'm thinking as at the same time analyzing this.
Yeah.
Right now, I think I still like Chaos Magician, but it's very very hard to gauge, and as it's to be expected with these players. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree. Again, I was trying to analyze it as you were doing it. So I had a bit of extra time to look at the situation, but I like Chaos Magicians. I think they have the most potential to score a lot here too. Like if you look at Orin, look at Nerdcube, he's already kind of cashed in on most of his points. He's formed his 2 towns. He's won the cults he's gonna win and gotten his landscape points with that. he only has 2 dwellings left on his board to actually build. So this is obviously a dwelling round in round 6. So that if you want to score points, you'll want to build dwellings, naturally at least. So he doesn't have a lot more potential. He doesn't have water 1 either, so he's on the trading post pass tile, but without water 1. So he can't really score a ton with trading posts either. So I think he's a bit limited with what he can do here. And well, I was gonna say I deep finesse can advance dig and build more dwellings, but he just took a double spade.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised by. He had the resources to advance dig twice and build some dwellings, didn't he? I think I would have thought he did still, and could score pretty well with that.
I'm very, very surprised by this move, and it's not to deny it to anyone else. Because
No, yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
we'll
actually,
have.
he dug a green hex gray with his second spade of the double dig. I don't know what his plan was with that actually. He's only on 1 shipping, so couldn't reach any other hexes. No, he had a hex there he could reach. I'm okay. I'm really surprised by that. I don't know what to make of the double dig.
What does he intend to do with all these workers? And again, he even took a worker down. That's very. I'm very puzzled, and I'm looking forward to see what he has in mind. But right now, I'm speechless. I don't have an explanation.
Yeah, I think this is one of the scenarios where like I feel pretty confident saying advancing dig and building dwellings was better than taking the double spade there. Like I don't really see the advantage of that. You know, if coins are an issue, you can even maybe just advance dig once and do some digs with that because he has so many workers. It's not a huge deal. And just the points you get from advancing digging, they look nice here. And I don't think that double spade helps him get any more dwellings down than with advancing dig. I mean, I'm not analyzing it really. This is just a surface level kind of take, I guess. But now is he still the favorite now after that move? It's hard to read too much into it, I guess. But it's surprising, that's for sure.
Yeah, I really don't know. I yeah, but I'm very surprised. I suppose, yeah, that if we come back to Oren, as you said, no water 1, he's sitting on the trading post tile, so it's very hard for him to score points. I'm starting to look toward. I start to have the feeling this is going to be a low point game. It doesn't seem like everyone is rocketing any like super high score above maybe even 150. Will we see 150 in this game? I'm not sure. I think it's very, very, very close. Darklings, I mean, can he surprise us? Will we see the stronghold? It's possible. I mean, the stronghold will be 3 points for the landscape, at least, since he's on the dwelling tile, and it's giving him 6 points from the priest that he's gonna use. So, I can't believe that it will be enough for Darklings. I mean, you see Darklings usually when they get no connection and no. Yeah, it's just town up, I suppose, for the 11 points. I mean, maybe he's able to sneak in.
Maybe it's like if you're a Darklings in this position, you'd want to be like when you're passing. I think you want to be sitting at like with very little endgame point. I think you want to be sitting at like around 130 points when you're passing at the minimum, really. And we'll see. I mean, he still does have 4 priests. He's on the dwelling pass tile. He doesn't have a lot more dwellings to build, admittedly. He has 2 more trading posts to build, so he can do 2 trading posts and 2 dwellings. I don't know. I wouldn't think it'd be enough. I still don't think it's enough, to be honest. I still think the having no endgame points is gonna kind of bite him in the end here. But I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating his position here. Yeah, now it's really unclear to me, I guess, kind of who's doing the best. I was really confident it was deep finesse, but now I'm not so much. I guess we'll just have to see it play out and just see what happens.
Yeah, and what about Asteri? He's now sitting at 93. He doesn't have the only player without a pass tile. He still has a town coming. He has like some points that he can do definitely. Now that Chaos Magician is not advancing digging, he might be able to go with B3, A7.
Yeah, if he can. So he needs 2 more trading posts for his town, and then after that he can use everything to get as many dwellings on the board as possible and score with that. If he can get away with advancing shipping twice and getting 3 or probably 3 dwellings down, that would be pretty nice for him. That would be a lot of points. He has some cult points. Well, he has 6 cult points, so I shouldn't say it's that many. But maybe he can afford to throw another priest or 2 in cults. Well, he just does here. He throws a priest to water, so maybe he'll kind of trickle in some points that way, and he will get something in network. Probably 6 points, it looks like. I think Chaos Magicians in Orin will have a better network than him, but I'm not totally sure. I think he's still in the running. He's still got a fair amount of points coming in with Earth 1 and Water 1 here.
And there's not, well, I mean, there's the worker town, which is not bad for. I was about to say there's not like good towns, but what the worker town for all things like 9 points at the very least, so that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a solid scoring town. I guess you could also take a ship town, which would save the priest for cults and the coins for doing more dwellings or trading posts or something else you might need to do. So maybe that'd be worth it as well. I'm sure Astari has a pretty clear plan as to what he wants, or I think he probably does. I don't really know him that well. But but the worker town for halflings is generally okay. And especially in a dwelling round, you want to be digging and building dwellings, and you need workers for that, of course. So it probably flows pretty well for him naturally. And we see Deep Finesse hard digging as well now too. He's hard dug 2 hexes here, so he's still putting down dwellings. And he will get to, I think he'll get his last 2 dwellings down. Will he get the last 2 dwellings down? I think so. Maybe. Does he have enough resources with the last dwelling? I don't know. If he can't get that last dwelling down, that could be a pretty big swing on network, as well as just scoring that dwelling's 4 points. That'll be that'll be interesting to see. But he's still digging a lot even without having advanced dig.
Yeah, as far as I can see, unless I'm missing something, I think he's like 1 resource short for the last dwelling.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks, and he needs some leech from somewhere, which I don't know if he'll get any. You never get that much leech. In late game dwelling rounds, you don't usually get as much leech because people are really spreading out all over the board with dwellings. Like in contrast to like a trading post round where everyone has to upgrade or is probably upgrading next to someone to do a cheap trading post where they're giving someone leech. And a dwelling round is not always the case. So you can't, I don't know if he's expecting to get leech here or if he thinks he'll get leech. But that'd be I guess a little sad for him if he can't get that last dwelling down because I think that could be a big swing.
Yeah, so the one thing, so I think that's a very, very good point about dwelling around as being like so much leech oriented. He gets one here from Mr. Fickles, and that's the thing, right? If Mr. Fickles wants to build trading posts, he has no choice but to upgrade next to Chaos Magician, and the same is true for Aaron. Chaos Magician is everyone's neighbor, right? So, although we see, sneaky nerd cube. I didn't see it that he was at 3 ships. And that could be huge. I mean, it's get him to 13 at work.
Yeah, and if that's enough to tie Chaos, that could be. Well, like I guess they're both pretty similar for points in cults. That'd be really close between them. They're both scoring. Well, I guess Chaos is getting a lot more with past tiles, although their keep is Air 1 too. So there's a lot of things to kind of look at, individual little things they're scoring to look at. And the thing for Nerdcube, obviously, is this is kind of where not having Earth 1. Oh, he does have Earth 1. Never mind. Sorry, I got mixed up. So he's scoring well in the dwelling round with Earth 1 as well, too. Or he has been scoring this round pretty well with dwellings. Yeah, Nerdcube and Deep Finesse look really close here in terms of score. It's hard to tell who's on top. I'm sure we could tell if we weren't casting. I'm sure we could figure it out, but I can't figure it out right now. I'm not mentally capable of figuring this out right now.
Yeah, it's just all good. It's more drama if we can just watch it unfold.
That's true.
Yeah, and I'm still like puzzled about where to put Starry right now. I think that my first idea is that Deep Finesse, Nerdcube is Terry and Mr. Fickles, but that has so much potential of being wrong. Like, Mr. Fickles is so hard to But I mean, if it's like just Star is not doing that much points on Cult, that much more points on final scoring than Mr. Fickles. Mr. Fickles has a lot of scoring to do yet, so I mean, Starry does have the town coming, but yeah, it's very very hard to gauge, I think.
Yeah, I think Astari still has quite a bit coming in because he has Water One and Earth One first of all, so he's kind of scoring with every move, and he's got his town coming in, and he's got um we think or I think probably 3 dwellings coming in. I don't think anyone's in a position to stop him from building 3 more dwellings if he has the resources for it. I can't check right now, but if he does, that's a lot of points he's got coming in, combined with the Halfling's ability that he's also getting points if he has to dig. And he's getting a fair amount more points than Mr. Fickles in the end game because he's getting network points, and Mr. Fickles won't be getting network points. That in itself is a 6 point swing, and his cult position's a bit better too. We kind of see him throw some priests to cults here in the end, and now he's ahead of Darklings in every cult. So I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Istari's in a better spot than Mr. Fickles here, kind of after analyzing this a bit.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think I'm very curious to see what I think that everyone that Chaos Magician Orin, we pretty much know where they stand right now. I mean, they're in the sense that they don't have much action coming, but Darklings and all things are a little harder to predict. Clearly, Mr. Fickles, well, yeah, I don't think he's going for the stronghold anymore. So
No, yeah, he doesn't have the workers now to make it worth anything. Well, I guess he gets the landscape, but it's probably not worth it at this point for him.
yeah,
You see, so Nurcube passes now, so he sees his game end. And just like looking back to what I thought he's gonna do is digging Orin, that that didn't happen, that's for sure. But he still pulled out a really solid game, like from a position that we thought was pretty tough. He did quite well. I'd be curious to talk to him after if he had any plans of digging Orin with starting with the 2 temples, but maybe he had the game plan all along that didn't involve that. Maybe he was kind of going the route that he did.
yeah,
So yeah, I think more than anyone, I'm curious to hear from him after the game at some point.
yeah. There's a lot to unfold in this game. I think we had a very, very high quality game, and right now I think it's pretty clear Deep Finesse is ahead of Nerdcube. I think in the end, he has more call points. They have the same network. He has more points than me. So I think I would say Deep Finesse is winning this game, unless this time we can pull something out of his hat. But right now it looks like Chaos Magician win to me.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. He's definitely scoring better than Nerdcube. He's on an 8 point pastel that he hasn't hit yet. And yeah, even he couldn't get Deep Finesse didn't get the last dwelling down, but even without that, he's still in a better spot. Like I think he's scoring around 145 points. Yeah, I shouldn't spoil it, I guess, but I think he's scoring somewhere around there. So it really depends. Yeah, like I don't think Mr. Fickles is getting there. So it really depends kind of how Astari can score here, how well he can score. And that's another thing about this game. I was just gonna say Astari's taking a bit of time to think here, but this game has been pretty fast, especially
Yeah,
for a high level like competitive game. Sometimes that you see players take a long time to think. I know I do. There's certain moves where I really want to spend as much time as possible to really kind of figure out what I want to do. But this game, all in all, has been quite fast. I noticed that with Deep Finesse. I know he's a pretty fast player in general, but I wasn't sure about the other players. But yeah, they've been kind of moving along pretty quickly here.
yeah, very smooth running overall. Very. I think it's also good for the casting. I think we had a very good show tonight. For the first game, I'm very pumped about what we've seen.
Yeah, I've only crashed once so far, so I'll take that as a positive as well. I'll have to knock on wood. I shouldn't jinx it, but yeah, that time I crashed more than that. So glad it hasn't happened yet.
All right, so um, I, I yeah, it's all in the hands of Histari right now, and we've talked about like Histari had a very interesting game. I think with a lot of small decisions in the end. Remember, like his awkward position at the beginning, choosing to start at f5, wanting to double dig but not really being able to take it. And Remember also this temple that he did in round 4. So now we see that he took the shipping town. So I suppose that he calculates that this was necessary more than the workers. And now what he's gonna do?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was kind of curious to see where he chooses to dig. So you dig the red hex, double digs the red hex in the south. Can he get? I don't think he can get. I think he can get one more dwelling down here, but I don't think he can get a second after that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he spent a lot of time on that forming the town, so he must have kind of calculated that the ship town was more useful for him than the worker town. That's like, yeah, I guess it's a bit like sad for him that he can't get more dwellings down this round because that'd be a huge swing if he could. Well, I guess he's never getting to 13 dwellings. I guess or 13 network. I guess he's never going to tie Ornn and Chaos on network. But yeah, every dwelling is just a lot of points here. So,
Yeah,
or can he get? No, he can get one more dwelling down. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. He can use his priest as workers. I just realized.
Yeah, that's probably what he's planning. So he's getting one last dwelling down, but it won't be enough to tie Chaos Magician and Ornn on the network, and that probably like seal it. I think for a story.
Yeah.
If he could catch them on network, then maybe. But without with the 12 points different on network and actually, I mean 9 points difference on network, I don't think he's there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was probably overestimating his position a bit. I didn't realize how far behind he was in network too. I think. I don't know. For somehow to me it wasn't obvious. I thought he was in the running kind of for first in network, but no, he's definitely not. He definitely has third network locked up here. It actually would have been interesting too if Mr. Fickles had. I was kind of thinking about this at one point. If Mr. Fickles had built all of his dwellings out east instead of like expanding as far as he did in the west, I wonder if is any way he could have tied halflings on network. Probably not. And he needed those dwellings. He needed something to form a town out west too. So there probably wasn't any way he could have tied halflings in network. I guess that wouldn't have mattered too much. I think he's still kind of like I wouldn't have affected. Maybe it would have affected the third place battle, but wouldn't have been a big swing anyways. But yeah, it's always kind of satisfying at the end to see the game wrap up and kind of see where everyone's position, everyone kind of falls in place at least, and kind of see we can see if our predictions are accurate as we go along here.
Yeah, or how inaccurate they are. They turn out to be.
Yeah. How bad we are at predictions.
um, yeah, but I think it looks. I think at this point there's little margin for mistake. I'm pretty sure we have Deepness, Nerd Cube, Vistarian, Mr. Fickles.
Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, it looks like not advancing dig in the last round isn't going to affect Deepness's position. Hey, maybe this is better than advancing dig. Maybe we were kind of miscalculating things. Maybe didn't have the resources for it. I don't know, but yeah, this worked out pretty well for him. It looks like in the end.
Yeah. It seems, yeah. I will be curious. I don't know if so it's first, and I'm not sure we will be able. I hope we can get the winner's interview. I'm not sure I'll be able to make it work. Also, uh, at 8 o'clock, it will be a lot of people who want to start their game. But for those who have time to stay until the end, we can have the little candy of the um, winner interview. I hope. I'm making no promise. I'll try to make it work. If it doesn't work, it will be for next week. But yeah, I will be very curious to hear his thought about why. I suppose we didn't. I mean, we kind of had our general idea, right? Of that it looked like the right idea, but we didn't calculate it. We didn't actually calculate it. I suppose he calculated it and realized that he will put one less dwelling down or something if he did that. And that will have been huge, right? If he has one less dwelling down, it means that he's Nerdcube is winning network alone, and Halflings is tying him in network. So that would have been a huge swing.
Yeah, that would have been probably game changing. Really, I think when we see how kind of close they'll be at the end, that would have been that would no question that would have been a massive swing. And I think in hindsight, we can kind of look and, we talked at the beginning about how high risk, high reward Chaos Magicians are, and they were ultimately able to get what they needed to early on, which is mainly that center gray hex. And once he got that hex, he was pretty, he was pretty set in a lot of ways. Like Defense didn't really get, he got the gray hex in the middle, and he also got good cult position. And once he got those two things, he was in a really good spot, I think. So when you see kind of, I guess, the power of Chaos Magicians when things do go right. You see some of the potential they do have, and this is, I guess, a good example of a game where no, it paid off to take the risky faction here, and that's it's always a tough decision to make, especially at high level Terra Mystica in a big game. It's like you don't want to have a terrible game. It doesn't feel good, I think, to have in a high stakes game to completely kind of tank and have a brutal game, which Chaos Magicians always have the potential to have that, but it can also pay off sometimes to take a risk, and it definitely happened here for Deep Finesse.
Yeah, we see like the end score is super close. Just shows like what what strong competition we have there. Yeah,
Look at that.
yes.
Look at that elo boost for Deep Finesse. 1 elo from that. He's at 678 now. I guess that's what happens when you have 4 really high elo players playing against each other. But yeah, that's a huge swing. Woo.
Yeah. That's exactly. You never see that usually. That was one of the reasons to put this tournament together, to try to have like a player of like high level player to play against each other, because otherwise it's super hard to make it happen. And I'm super glad that it could work out, and we see the result. I mean, that was a super interesting game.
Yeah, it was, and pretty close in the end too. Between Deep Finesse and Astari, 11-point gap between first and third. It's pretty close. Not the closest you've ever seen in Terra Mystica for sure, but it was competitive all around. Like if we had we had trouble figuring out who was winning for a lot of the game. That's always a sign of a close game and of a well played game, I think, in general.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we got it right. The fact that it's so close. Yeah, the fact that it's so close makes sense that we had difficulty to predict things. So I was trying to see if Deep Finesse will be available for the winners interview. Apparently he's not online right now, so probably it won't be possible this time. We'll look for next week if we can get that. Anyway, I think it has been very entertaining game, and as I said, people will need to leave anyway to get to their own game for their TZ League, I hope. So thank you so much for commenting this with me. I'm very much looking forward to see you play next week. What can we expect from you next week?
Well, we'll have to see, but I'm willing to try some different things and try to experiment a bit, I think. So if nothing else, you should see an interesting game. That's my thought. We'll see. Maybe I'll think differently next week and I'll change my strategy. But right now, I think I'm willing to try to think outside of the box if I can, at least. That's my strategy. But I wanted to thank you as well for giving me the opportunity here to commentate. And I think like a lot of players, I also kind of started out by watching a lot of your streams. I think I started out last spring or summer, so really about a year ago. And you're one of the big reasons why I got so into Terra Mystica as well, and why I think it's definitely helped me improve my game watching your streams. I've learned a lot from it, so it's kind of cool to have it go full circle and now have the opportunity to cast with you on your stream. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. That means quite a lot for me. That's really like it's always nice to know that the video network has some influence, and yeah, it's really nice, and yeah, very intriguing. Very intriguing also from you to say that you're going for an interesting game next week. I'm definitely looking forward for that. So thank you guys a lot for being around. I think that we had like a really fun stream. There was a lot of people going at, and I think it looks great for the Terra Mystica Tuesday League. So for those who are still playing, we're going to be playing. I hope that you... Oh, here you are.
Sorry, I thought my camera was on the whole time. I don't know how long I was off for, so apologies for that. I just realized at the end, I just looked at the stream.
No worries. Yeah, so I think very nice start for the Tuesday League. So for all of those of you who are gonna play later in the evening, I hope that you enjoy your game. I hope that you enjoy the stream. And thank you so much, Varnwell, for doing that tonight. We'll watch you with great interest next week.
Yeah, I'll have to steal some of this elo that Deep Finesse got. I'll have to take it back from him. So that's my goal. We'll see how it goes. No, it's a lot of talented players. So if anything, I'll probably lose elo in this tournament. But I can't wait. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Great, great. All right. Bye bye, everyone.